Okay, Rangers, no, Nice 1, Rangers 4. Chris Jack, what happened there? Didn't see that coming, did we, with our 0-0 and 1-1 prediction? Rangers in a very good position to go through in the Europa League, but also having secured what's quite a memorable result away from home in European competition. Hamza Igamane announced himself with a really impressive performance. Chris, Rangers scored 4. Is it fair to say they'll go into the dressing room actually thinking it probably should have been 6 or 7?
I think the reaction in the dressing room will be the same as it has been in the press box and the media room here. People just looking at each other, wondering what they've just witnessed over the last couple of hours.
Yeah.
An incredible result, incredible performance from Rangers. As you say, they could easily have scored 5, 6, 7, 8. I mentioned in my analysis piece, I think that first half summed up. Now Rangers good in an attacking sense, creating good chances, scoring some good goals. You've then got Cherney should have done better with one after Barron wins it and feeds it to him. The breakaway when they're 3 against 1. There's a still image doing the rounds on Twitter during the remainder of the first half, and as soon as I saw it, I just thought of you tearing your hair out. Just how Rangers going through that phase, being in that phase of play, and somehow not even getting a proper shot on target. I mean, scoring a goal, but then there's the good thing. There's Igamane showing real tenacity to win the ball back. Cherney gets his goal. Igamane's all-round performance, certainly his second goal, really, really accomplished. Fair to say, Nice, a couple of issues defensively that they might need to work. They might need to work on the training ground. But say from a Rangers point of view, just so many positives there to take.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot to get into because, and we'll discuss it in the morning briefing tomorrow as well, because Nice were really bad, and especially after 3 or 4-0. Well, that's probably harsh. I think after 3 or 4-0, they're really bad. It looked like they'd chucked it. But this is also, as the comment here says, this is a team that were unbeaten at home before this. And I think you need to give Clement, listen, Sunday will be a different game, Chris. We've spoken to death why Rangers maybe play well in Europe. Let's focus on this in isolation tonight. Clement spoke pre-match about playing Hamza Igamane up there because he'd take Rangers up the pitch. He was better with his back to goal. He could hold the ball up there. And it turned out to be an inspired decision. The question might be, why have we not seen more of him earlier? But he can play, can't he? Because especially that second goal he scored, again, he could have maybe had more on the night. But the second goal he scored was a wonderful kind of individual goal, wasn't it?
Again, capitalised on what you have to say is really poor play from Leeson, giving the ball away in a really bad area. But to then take it, to show the composure, it's a lovely wee pass to knock it through the defender's legs, and a really accomplished finish into the far corner. Type of chance that Rangers have had at stages this season and not taking it. As you touched on there, I thought the manager's comment pre-match saying he will be able to get Rangers up the pitch. We need someone that can read the line better in effect. I think it was meant to praise Igamane and highlight some of the good things from his perspective. Maybe a wee bit of a negative, a wee bit of a criticism on Cyril Dessers because he's not done that so often this season. He doesn't really do that. That's not his game, as we spoke about before the match. Now, we touched on it earlier on. If Danilo had been available, I think Danilo would have probably played. There had been calls for Danilo to play. So Igamane has gone from the guy who nobody thought would really get a start tonight to the guy that has to start against St Johnstone Sunday.
Oh, he has to, yeah. I mean, and a comment here as well from James saying they made mistakes, yes, but we finally capitalised on the mistakes. I guess what Clement, I don't even know what the expected goals was. I don't think it would be too high because there was a lot of opportunities where Rangers got through into the final third but didn't actually get a shot off. But in terms of actual moments, there was so many. You think back to that Malmo game away from home, even Olympiacos to a degree in the first half, Rangers have had a lot of European games where it's felt like they have passed up opportunities and not been able to make the most of them. They were able to. Tonight, let's look at the game a little bit chronologically. The two favourite moments, two best pieces of commentary from Ali McCoy's for me, Chris, was the stat just on the stroke of half-time that Rangers scored more goals in that first half against Nice than they had in the entirety of their league campaign away from home up until this point, which is just absolutely mental. And the second comment was he thought if he was thrown on for the final 10 minutes, he might be able to get a goal. But Nice, I think when the game went 4-0, they committed so many players forwards and there was a lot of gaps for Rangers to exploit. can't take away from Rangers that they were 3-0 up against a team who haven't been beaten at home. Yes, they had a lot of injury issues. Rangers have had those issues as well. And to go in at halftime 3-0 up, Walney's had a couple of chances early on. They obviously had that penalty check as well. Rangers kind of had those 3 opportunities, and bar the moment you highlight when they had the 3v1 and they somehow contrived to not get a shot away, they were really ruthless with their moments in front of goal.
And that word ruthless. That's something we've just not associated with this Rangers side over the course of the season. They've not capitalised on those chances. I think one of the comments earlier on, so I said you can only beat what's in front of you, and that's true. You can only capitalise on the mistakes from the opposition. But how often have Rangers not capitalised on those mistakes? We touched on Igamane, a big night for him. Another goal from Vakar Cherny, continuing that form of just adding numbers to his game, contributing, being able to play his part when other players like Barami perhaps not. So that chance alone, Barami should have done so much better with the pass. Probably should have actually gone to Cherny with it and gone the other side rather than going to Igamane. But overall, you're looking at the 2 boys in the middle of the park again, covering a lot of ground. Good. John Suter, I thought, was good. Jack Butland kept busy enough. Now, I think you have to give Nice some form of credit in how they kept going. They kept creating chances. They did have chances of their own. It wasn't a case of Rangers dominating the entire game. Nice did have chances, but Rangers defended moments well. Jack Butland makes saves in those big moments as your goalkeeper has to. So a number of really encouraging individual performances, but obviously the collective is the main one for Clermont to really take away from this.
Yeah, Cameron saying this is the victory and confidence boost the team needs. Scott saying it should have been 7 or 8. Comment here from Dam saying Nice played horrendously, making us look better than we are. I'm afraid the result will just paper over the cracks. Peter, great result, still stunned at the Dessers miss, which I think is fair. Comment here saying Igamane has to be a nailed-on starter now over Dessers. We'll build up to the St Johnstone game tomorrow, Chris. I think a 4-1 win away in Europe merits the attention of just that night. But it is I tweeted out halfway through the first half. It is just incredible that Rangers continue to put in performances domestically and then show this level of ability in European competition. Who else stood out to you? Because I thought Dujon Sterling was really good. Created the second goal, had a big hand in the first. Is it his right back spot now? Because again, to cite something that was mentioned on commentary, Rory Hamilton said, look, last time that Rangers played in Europe and James Tavernier didn't start, it was the big story. This time round, not so much. Do you think that's Dujon Sterling's shirt from now on, really?
I think it really should be. Again, I mentioned that in my analysis piece on the site, this kind of changing of the guard, that right back. It was a big conversation last time it happened. And the more often it happens, the more often that Tavernier doesn't play, the less of a conversation that becomes. It just becomes normal for Dujon Sterling to start games. I said he perhaps didn't expect to get an assist when he dinks that ball over the top of the defence. He's probably thinking defender's going to clear that. It's not going to result in anything. A really, really bad error. Diomande does really well to finish it, though. I have to give him credit for that. Really accomplished finish. So Sterling maybe didn't expect to get an assist, but he did. It's good to see him get off and running in that regard. I thought overall he was just solid. No, didn't stand out in terms of being head and shoulders above anyone, but just did what he had to do. Made a couple of good blocks, got forward when he had to. So I think for me, you mentioned about players keeping their shirts, and if that place is his to lose now, again going up to Perth at the weekend, Sterling is your right back now.
I find it hard to disagree with that, especially given he came off with 20 minutes to go, so he didn't play the full 90 minutes. A few more comments. Alan saying, great result. Why can't we play Igamane and Danilo together? A little bit more on Igamane, Chris, before you head off to the mix zone. Matthew saying Igamane showed some real class. It's a difficult game to come into because a lot of responsibility on him to take his team up the pitch. He was isolated for large parts of the game. But that was quite an announcement performance, wasn't it? And it was a performance I think people will get excited about. Like Chefty, he's quite fun to watch. He does things with the ball. There was a moment, I don't know if you'd have seen it from the gantry, but it was after Rangers went 1-0 up and Igamane got the ball wide by the touchline. And he tried to nutmeg his man with a back heel instead of playing the ball backwards. And at times he maybe takes the risky option, but then for that second goal, it's a brilliant nutmeg after he's intercepted it and he finds the far corner. I mean, he's not going to play every single game, but he has to be ahead of Dessers in the pecking order when he's fit at the moment, doesn't he?
I think he's the type of player that the fans are going to warm to, and yes, there's areas of his game that clearly still need worked on. He's clearly still an up and coming player. He's far from the finished article, but I think the fans would rather watch him learn on the job. They'd rather watch him make mistakes, like trying those things and not quite coming off, or missing the odd chance, or not picking the right option, or making the wrong pass. They'd rather watch him and give him that bit of breathing space and that bit of leeway than watch Dessers make the same mistake and turn in the same kind of performances that they've seen throughout his Rangers career. He feels and he looks and he performs differently to Dessers. It's fresh, it's new. It's not, as I said, pre-match. He's not the answer to every single one of Rangers' problems right now, because there are a lot of them within this squad and off the pitch as well, obviously. But for a guy just to give the fans something to buy into and to be excited by for a change in a season where there's been very little to get excited about, you have to understand why the fans are really kind of singing all his praises, as I can still hear them singing out the door ahead of me.
Yeah, it was a comment here asking if I can find it. Did Derek manage to get into the game? I didn't hear from him, so I think so, because otherwise I'm sure he'd be trying to find a solution. Just before we'll let you go, Chris, I guess Derek and I will be on in the morning. You've got about 20 minutes of sleep before you get on the red eye back to Glasgow. St Johnstone will be a totally different game, and if we focus on Clermont for a minute, he needed a big performance. I think there's still a ton of questions that one game doesn't cover. I don't think tonight does his argument that Rangers' style is isn't better suited to Europe than domestic football. I don't think that does his argument any favours. It has to, when Rangers have had results, and they've not had results as good as this, but Olympiacos away is a decent result. Malmo, a win away from home, is a good result. They've not been able to build on it. They've got plenty of games to try and do that. But I guess the question is, how does that transpire when there isn't space to play in? So when it isn't a game like tonight, and maybe the likes of Igamane coming into that starting 11, can you get Bayrami in the number 10 position at points as well? Maybe that starts to give a style of play more options, but there's no question that this needs to be the start of something as opposed to a kind of flash in the pan, if you will.
So a lot of people mentioned in the build-up the last couple of days, they expected Rangers to come here and put in a decent performance, perhaps even get a result, not at this level, but they expected Rangers to not come here and be way off it, expected them to be competitive, perhaps pick up a point or perhaps even win the game, and then go to St Johnstone and just be so far off it and struggle and potentially drop a couple of points in the Premiership. That's just the highs and lows, the inconsistencies of this Rangers side. Obviously, a very different occasion, very different pitch, very different type of challenge. I don't think St Johnstone will defend as badly as Nice have over the last couple of hours here. Rangers, though, they just have to find a way to win. We spoke pre-match about, even if they didn't get a result tonight, it was important to have a performance. They obviously got both. Heading into Sunday, the result is the most important thing. Once again, they have to find a way to win that game, but it's definitely given them something to build on. But as you outlined there, we've said that after Malmo, after Bucharest, after Olympiacos, at some point they have to, that message of we can build on this, at some point you have to actually do it. Time will tell if Sunday is that day.
Yeah, just finally, Derek there saying tonight is a positive. That's for sure. Must move this on to a consistent domestic level now. Yeah, strange game to sum up. I mean, it's a huge result for Rangers. 4-1 away in France. You cannot knock that. We'll break it down in more detail tomorrow in the morning briefing. Myself and Derek, who I'm sure will have had a good night at the game. You're going to go off to the mix zone, Chris, so you can expect lots more coverage to come from this game, hear from a number of players going through the mix zone. A reminder that we have a fantastic Black Friday offer on the Rangers Review at the moment. You can get an entire year's access for just £12. That's daily content every single day, all our exclusive news, stories, analysis, you name it. And it is the best way to support these podcasts. The morning briefing, you'll also, if you're a new subscriber, get a fantastic Rangers versus RB Leipzig print. The link for that is in the description. But £1 a month, effectively, well, isn't effectively, that is 12 divided by 12, Chris, isn't it? Over the course of the next year, the link for that Black Friday offer is in the description. But until then, Chris is going to go off to the mix zone. Loads of more covers to come for you tonight on the Rangers Review. You'll hear from Philippe Clement in full at his press conference as well. Thank you for joining us. We'll speak to you in the morning, and bye.